Welcome back and thanks for watching CNN News 18. As we were just talking about Prime Minister's pitch for Sabka Saath, in a historic move, the African Union was added as a permanent member to the G20 on day one of the G20 summit. It's highly significant as it's a region that has largely been ignored, and the 55-member bloc now has a strong voice on a powerful global platform as well. When the announcement was actually made, Prime Minister Modi hugged the African Union President Azal Assoumani, who then sat down at the conference table where permanent members sit. In the New Delhi Leaders' Declaration, the African Union was welcomed. The statement also read, and I quote, "Africa plays an important role in the global economy. We also reiterate strong support to Africa, including through the G20 Compact with Africa and G20 initiative on supporting industrialization in Africa and LDCs." I have CNN News 18's Akanksha joining me on the phone line. Akanksha, you also had a conversation there with the African Union's representative. Could you give us more details about the conversation you had with him there?
A very good morning to you, Sakshi, and all our viewers. And yes, it was a momentous occasion to be meeting and have an in-person interaction with President Assoumani. And it has been a monumental success, considering the credit goes to Prime Minister Modi for urging all of those G20 member nations to include the African Union in the G20. And now, as we all know, G20 will be turning into G21. Having said that, a lot now rests upon this membership, because most of the member nations will be looking to explore opportunities, and that not only includes the West or the European Union, that also includes India. So the question I posed to the President of the African Union was that what are the opportunities for India when Russia and China have already made inroads? And that's what the President said, that, it's a 55-member bloc, and Africa as a continent, as we all know, is massive and huge. And our connect with Africa, and especially if you look at South Africa, goes back in history even to the time of Mahatma Gandhi. So, the President of the African Union seemed extremely fond of India, and he said that even though China and Russia have made inroads, there are massive opportunities for India as well, irrespective of their presence in the continent. So, and he made it very clear that he's very grateful to Prime Minister Modi for bringing African Union to the entire bloc. They've been very vocal about how it is India's G20 presidency that has not just bridged the gap between the global north and global south. In fact, it is India's G20 presidency that has also given a voice to the African subcontinent. Because remember, all these emerging economies, whether it is Africa or it is the global south, have so far only borne the brunt of conflict, of war that's taking place, of whatever differences the global superpowers have. Say, either the China and Russia, the geopolitical divide is very stark between, say, China and Russia on one end, and the West led by United States. So we are looking at a time where the geopolitical climate is extremely polarized, and navigating such a polarized climate was a very tricky diplomatic tightrope walk for Indian Prime Minister, something he managed to do, and that is very evident if you look at the Delhi Leaders' Declaration. The President of the African Union also endorsed the New Delhi Leaders' Declaration, and he lauded Prime Minister's efforts as well. He said that, he appreciates how Prime Minister has given a voice to all the issues, incorporated every bit of consensus from all countries, not just the West, not just the global North, but also given a voice to emerging economies, something that was not really done so far. But having said that, G20 is at the moment a troika of emerging economies, as we've been talking about. Last year it was Indonesia, this time India has transferred it to Brazil. So here's hoping this is the moment of the African subcontinent and the global south.
Well, Akansha, thank you so much for breaking that down for our viewers. As we were just talking about the conversation you had there with African Union President, I would like to tell our viewers that Akansha Swaroop spoke exclusively to Azalia Soumani, African Union President, about the G20 summit. Listen into that conversation.
President, when we talk about inclusivity being one of the themes of G20 this year, how inclusive was the New Delhi leaders' declaration according to you, apart from the grand feat of the inclusion of African Union?
De ce côté-là, Madame, rassurez-vous, hein, on a été très satisfait de la tenue de ce sommet, et puis les travaux, comment se sont passés, et la déclaration qui a eu l'unanimité. Maintenant, c'est la mise en œuvre de la déclaration. C'est là où on doit s'atteler à ce qu'on a dit ici, hein, dans la déclaration, que ça puisse se concrétiser en fait, pour que ça soit dans le sens, effectivement, de nos ambitions, hein, des ODD, des ambitions de développement socio-économique du monde.
Now the issue is to focus on the implementation so that we can see how together we can work out and implement the declaration.
How significant has been the role of Prime Minister Modi, and what were your thoughts when he invited you to the high table? Could you describe that moment, please?
Enfin, Modi, il ne nous a pas surpris. Tout le monde connaît son leadership. Mais effectivement, comme ce sommet, c'est lui qui l'a abrité, il a pris toutes les mesures, parce que ça passe dans de très bonnes conditions. En tout cas, toutes mes félicitations, enfin toutes nos félicitations, tout le monde a félicité le président Modi par rapport à la réalisation, à la satisfaction de tout le monde dans le travail, et puis surtout aux résultats. Maintenant, on prie pour que le prochain sommet du CETIC va se passer au Brésil, ça se passe comme ça se passe ici en Inde.
Surprise for us. We received a very warm welcome. Everything went well, and we hope that the forthcoming summit that will take place in Brazil will have the same impact.
Well, you heard from African Union President that how happy he was with the inclusion of African Union to the G20's leaders.